Tonight's featured reader is Sarah Rohrs. Originally inspired by, I don't know how to pronounce that. Khalil Gibran, names. Plus trees, clouds, and blue sky while walking home from school as a kid, Sarah is a longtime poet and former newspaper reporter who now works as a teacher's aide. She writes in a poem-a-day online group, and her poems are in small journals. She's joined Paint and Write the Town and the Mid-Valley Poetry Society. So here is Sarah Rohrs.
Thank you. Well, thank you everybody for coming out on this cold winter night. It's such a joy to see everybody here, and it just goes to show the power of poetry. So tonight I'm going to read some poems on a variety of different topics. They kind of have a spring theme running through it. I love this time of year when it's still pretty wintry, but there's still flowers growing and leaves are beginning to bud out on the trees. And so this first poem is part of a long series of spiritual night love poems I wrote one night. I'm not going to read all of them. I'm just going to read one part. You came in through the break in the forest, listening to poetry, a purple sentience nearby, an angel's breath on my neck. Lift my body to these sweet sounds. A lover's heart beats strong and free. Patches of sunlight or starshine that came to me this morning. Mists rising off the water. Land and fur. Fortune and air coming together. Stand in a billowing wind calling. Thunder of remembrance. When we glided in canoes in a river ever returning. My heart is like a new leaf unfurling. I know not what will come when I stand under this tree marveling at greens and light. Remember me, fellow traveler, the shedding of clothes and books, possessions stacked in cages gone. Bird wings take off, flying in a gentle return to the mother and father. Peace in the circle. I am here. I have arrived. Thank you. The next poem is also set in spring, a season of not depression. Last night I awoke, perhaps I was dreaming, and I knew or felt that winter was over and I would not miss the cold and the dark and the fear of opening. Last night I did not wish ill of the daffodils, gaily bowing their heads in the rain-swollen wind, nor did I mind bright splashes of color that come when tulips knock on the hard ground. I even heard a squirrel chattering as if laughing. I could not say I was dreaming marvelous air like a Machado poem, spring, bees and secrets flowing and buzzing, making honey out of failures. But maybe there was enough warmth to pull a blanket up over the corpse in the garden, the one we can never dig deep enough, who keeps coming back to the door and wanting more to eat. I apologize to all who wished good intentions this time of year, spade in one hand, seeds in the other, planting hope in rain dripping slick and swollen along the tree bark. So spring and the changing seasons often brings up what's gone before with the passage of time, and sometimes we think about who's no longer with us. So here's a few poems about loved ones who are no longer here. This first one is about my mother. She died in a December December, but I wrote this a few months later in April around her birthday. Rummaging through Rohrs this afternoon, I ran across your scarab necklace, filling in memories of where we were when you bought it, a museum thinking of King Tut and his ornate headdresses, and of adorning your own chest with pride and art, with little money, hidden despair, defiance, black, silver, wide smile, flashing eyes. I wonder what trip you are on now. We did not place the precious scarab on your heart as they did in ancient Egypt, so close to heaps of golden and hidden treasure when they died. You wore simple clothes when your body finally gave way to death. That night I saw your spirit leaping triumphant into stars. No more dark night of the soul for you, but only light and jubilation and dancing trees, fog clouds on a hillside, a beloved shoreline you could look at as long as you wanted without pain or having to go to bed too early. In those final days, I loved the deep grooves of your neck, jutting chin, eyes closed, refusing to look any more at printed word or to hear conversations in the room, to understand anything really, only that we couldn't cross the divide with you. Though we held your twitching fingers, perhaps tapping out a code on a hidden typewriter or a computer keyboard I tap on today, trying to decipher mystery. What blue creature inhabited this home on the end of the string, and what were you thinking when looking at its carved lines leaning this way and that way? Rebirth as gift, standing in a room or walking a hallway towards a glowing sentience, a lord or goddess of a midnight sun you never feared, moving on but leaving remnants, treasures behind as a beetle might walk in the sand. Thank you. This next one is about my aging cat who died after all her various health conditions made a rapid turn for the worse, and the vet agreed to come to our home to put her to sleep, but we had to schedule it a few days in advance so we knew what was coming. And it wasn't an emergency, so she wasn't in a lot of pain or anything. She's just extremely sick. So her fur is sacred, as are her green eyes that blink like waving leaves. Her white-tipped paws and curling tail are sacred, as is her body entire, and her spirit electric. And so it is spring, with its gladness and red tulips in the yard, and it is also a time to say goodbye to her in her last earth cycle. I bow over the dirt in the garden, digging for seeds, and find clumps of long buried fur that fly off in the wind. Some face that once peered here. I am on my knees in the garden to life and to her, this crone sitting regally in the window, in the sun, all entirely here, all at peace, even under the willows in the evening with the cooing doves and the nightingale sitting alone, forsaken but still singing and hoping for a prayer. Thanks. This last one on living, dying, and loss is about a miscarriage I had in my 30s. You blew in on a hot day, a balloon from far away, a dandelion puff jerked from the wind. Tangled up in my flesh, you uncoiled tiny tendrils, reaching and reaching into unwinding possibilities. Summer days, a dizzying heat, earth and promise. I filled my basket with marsh reeds, soft blossoms, sturdy grass. In the morning, forgotten remnants of old yearnings bleached themselves on the shore. Absolute innocence pulled from shadows, from cold, grainy wells. In my garden, tiger lilies in a silent blaze of sunlight. bloomed orange fire before nightfall. For 2 days we danced, you a seed never to be lost again, and me ready to scatter ashes of anger, despair, regret. But our jubilation echoed back empty, and then the music stopped, and soon all I heard was crying in silence, familiar as my own all these years. And later on, under moonlight, I was alone again. The trees shook with an ancient wind blowing from the west. I shivered as I dug deep, bearing bloody rags and bitter water, releasing you into the night. Thank you. This one is a little different. It's I wrote this when I was watching Ken Burns' documentary on the Vietnam War. It's called Watching the War on TV. I wore white to the war. I wore it like a lily out in the open under the sun. I wore it like an open robe when the apostles turned away in disbelief at the blood wounds, no opening save for the thorns poking through at the crown and a ring of gold in each palm. I wore white to the protest and waved a white flag of surrender to confusion and picked up gray stones and lobbed them at a gray face. I wore white to the battlefield and drank a glass of white wine with the other picnickers. Underneath the nets, we held our rackets, but could still hear the popping and huffing in the nearby fields. Our jaws ached for lack of speech. I wore white when the tanks rolled in, and a black-clad soldier picked up a Mark II grenade and held it like a flower. Slowly, I wanted him to pull the pin, but slowly. The gaping wound at my throat gushed crimson on my white dress as I watched the screen bulge with the lists, and the coffin slid out of the choppers, dirt still clinging to the stripes. Through the static, I touched the names as they slid by, but I did not find mine, nor any pot of coins where the colors bled together. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, you guys are great. Thank you so much. These most recent poems I've written are a series of daily haikus on praying the rosary. I started to pray the rosary in late December, and through my involvement with a group called Way of the Rose, which is not Catholic at all. It explores the goddess roots of the rosary. Anyway, after the first morning, I felt compelled to write a haiku, and I decided to keep it up through a 45-day novena. So I'm not going to read all 54, don't worry. So, here's a few of them. In dark morning doubt, word sounds flow in shallow stream. Steady bird listens. Silliness of time, chase white clouds in mind chatter. Mercy in slow eyes. Joy comes to follow in moss, grace of worms singing, your hem in my hands. What way sought the shell? A bruised hand inches to warmth, grateful these stones. Blind I make first touch, trees hewn but dirt still fertile, on knees blue ribbon found. Night frogs jump on pond, stones call, is exile over? Footsteps at a gate. Who walks away now? My mother's babies are here, faith stone in my hand. Magi gifts feel lost, forests echo that sorrow, still you'll remember. Flowers bloom in wind, in love with trees branching out, all life is answered. Straight lines abandoned, sweet the wild roses grow, veils now lifting. Thank you. So this next one is about where I work. I work at an elementary school, and this poem is about two students I had in a kindergarten class, Diana and Cassius. One a bright light, the other nearly blind. They found each other in the big room on their first day. Holding hands, they floated among the tiny tables and chairs like pieces of driftwood, finally washing onto the shore. What angel watched over them as they moved among the lunch boxes, the swings, and the heavy clumping feet of the adults? Who saw their two hands, perfect shapes of warmth and comfort, their arms seeking out each other's shoulders as they sat on the carpet amid all that ordinariness? We found him jumping as high as he could to reach the ceiling as she used her feet to draw a circle around him, around them both. Outside that tight little circle of belonging, the other stared and stared so hard their eyes watered and they had to look away. Okay. My last poem, this is the last one. Yay, the last one. No, I'm kidding. I wrote it in response to a prompt called Survival Strategies in the Poem a Day group I'm in. That's how we jumpstart the creative processes through prompts. So this one is survival strategies. To go out in the street with the wind and the warm swirling on my arms, to stop by the patient trees and place my hand on their bark and listen, to light the flame every morning and drag my pen across the page as if a blind man might search for Allah amid the cold stones in the sanctuary, to offer tips to the smaller gods that take out the baskets of regrets and burn them with incense, to offer no ill will to the frightened man clutching a flag and spitting, to kneel down, scared of the fire and the orange in the sky, uncertain of the bells that toll when our children go out unattended, to peer through the dark glass of the vase holding flowers about to weep their petals and remember all the ways to love. Thank you. And thank you to Mark for these.
Wasn't that terrific? So we're going to take a short break. There's cookies back there, so eat the cookies, so I don't have to eat the cookies. I'm not supposed to eat so many cookies. There's two lists back there. One list is for the open mic, and so if you want to read at the open mic, sign up on the open mic list. And the other list is for the mailing list. And if you want to hear about the Salem Poetry Project events, you can sign up on the mailing list. So we'll take about, 10 minutes. Oh, we also have two books back there. We have, there's Humanities magazine back there, and there's the anthology for the Salem Means Peace.
And if you'd like the high one, they're $12.
$12, and the proceeds go to putting the peace mural up. It's in storage right now. All right, so we'll come back in about 5-10 minutes.
Yes, the one at the YMCA.